Hello, and welcome to my Fire Emblem 9 Path of Radiance 100% gross low turn count playthrough. I'm your host Typhoon Carter, and today I bring to you Chapter 17. Now, Chapter 17 is split into 4 parts, and we're going to be covering 17-1 and 17-2. Now, it sounds like it's a very long, 4-part chapter. And in reality though, it's really not, despite what the information given to a player about how they need to conserve their weapon uses are, at least on a hard mode. Although in Maniac mode, this can be a real issue. One of the things that we need to note is that we don't really have any time in between these 4 parts of Chapter 17 to stop down, apply bonus XP, or even access the convoy outside of units that we don't deploy. And this is one of the rare instances in the franchise where you can effectively select which units you want to show up as reinforcements after 17-1 during the 4-part of Chapter 17. So we gotta make sure all our prep work is done beforehand. And one of the chapters, 17-2, we need Kieran to be promoted into Paladin by then. This is so that he will be able to rescue Mordecai. But we're not gonna burn all of it. Instead, we're going to level him up to level 20 point something, just to save a little bit of bonus XP. We're not saving a whole lot, but we're still saving some for later on. And all of the parts in Chapter 17, each of them have a different objective, which makes it a pretty interesting chapter. Now, this is one of the handful of times where FE has multi-parters to a chapter, but it is not unprecedented. You can take FE8 and FE7's endgame, for example, for instances similar to this. Unfortunately, Marcia can't really use the spear because she did not attain A rank lances yet, since spear is A rank in this game, so she has to settle for the short spear, and she'll need it to kill a particular enemy later on. And Marcia is actually going to be very important throughout all 4 parts of Chapter 17. Well, really 3 out of 4, because one of them's a defend map, which won't really matter, but you might notice that I'm doing something a little different in the menu here. What we're doing here is we're manipulating where our units will be deployed in 17-2, 17-3, and 17-4. This matters in particular for Marcia, Kieran, and Jill especially. This is because in the subsequent parts of Chapter 17, we won't be able to change any units that we have currently deployed. This is formation, or rather where they start on the map. It's set. This is also much like FE7 and to a degree FE8's second part of their respective endgames. It's very similar in that regard, and it's rather annoying, so that's why I had to do all the menuing there. Now 17-1, it's a route map, but it's a route map that can be done fairly quickly, and it's relatively standard. But here we're shoving and smiting Marcia forward because she, with her boots, is one of the only units that we have who can feasibly reach some enemies in the back end of the map. Now, she actually didn't need to crit that enemy over there, as she would have just killed him on enemy phase. Now, you might have noticed earlier that we gave Ike a steel sword forge called Inui. Now, Ike, he actually promotes after the conclusion of Chapter 17, so we're giving him a little bit of experience so that he can reach those last bits of EXP to cap out some of his stats. We want to cap out his magic, his strength, skill, and speed in particular. So those are like the super relevant stats that we want him to reach. And giving him a Steel Sword Forge, it just allows him to one round a little bit easier. And there's gotta be a certain gimmick in one of the later parts of chapter 17 that will prevent him from being, let's say, at his full potential. Unfortunately, some of the enemies here are stationary. And it should be noted that here we're having Kieran kill this archer so that he can promote into Paladin. And with Paladin's promotion, what you can do is, in this game, you can basically select a secondary weapon type of your choice. This is one of the rare instances of any title, really, where a promotion can just allow you to pick a secondary weapon type or like secondary thing that you can use and not have your promotion bonuses affect it too much. And here Ike is demonstrating Ponage Incarnate, and he levels up. And he reaches level 15, so he's capped out his skill. This is going to matter because we will give him Aether eventually, and he will need that in a couple of chapters. But that will require him to promote, which is a scripted event. Meanwhile, we have Miss kind of just grinding her staff rank because she does need some experience down the line, and so that we can minimize the amount of bonus XP we dump. Now here, because these enemies are stationary, we're going to do something, an interesting trick here. What we're going to effectively do is we're going to drop or send a short spear to a convoy so that she doesn't waste it. And that halberdier, it looked like she was short of one rounding. That's actually a very rare instance where the halberdier rose up on HP. And when I was playing this, like about 9 out of 10 times, it did not roll up that high on HP or defense that prevented Marcia from being able to one round with the short spear. Now, if you don't go fast enough, reinforcements will show up and it will make this map go on longer than it has to. The other thing I didn't really mention was that there's actually some terrain that are kind of like mud-ish that will slow down some units in this map. And in 17-2, so like the second part of chapter 17, you will also notice this, but it'll be much more noticeable there. And I'll talk more about it in a bit. And then here, Marcia's pretty much just cleaning out these last few enemies with ease. And it's just hilarious to watch like some of these enemies being incapable of dealing damage to her. But yeah, so with this, that is basically 17-1 cleared in 2 turns. And we move on to 17-2. Now, this is where our menu manipulation mattered a lot, and you might be wondering why I didn't use the reinforce command at all during this. This is because of the fact that the reinforcements that we will ask to like come over and help us, they won't be able to show up on time by the time we finish this map, so like they just won't show up anyways. So that's why I just didn't bother. And here, Miss, Soren, they're just doing their staff grinding. And for Soren, it's going to matter a lot. Here we have a little bit of a shelf chain set up. Lef, Mordecai, and Morum all have to shove Marcia as far as possible. This is an arrive map, so any unit can arrive. It's kind of similar to chapter 11 in that regard. And here Marcia is going to move as far as she can. And in her current state, she won't be able to quite make it. Now here, this is where Jill's high weight actually works in her favor for once. This is because like she can actually rescue Morum at base. So she comes in handy here. In incomplete recruitment, you normally would need both Kieran and Oscar to promote in order to pull this off. But in the context of a full recruit run, we can just get away with this. And Morty was basically dropped there so that Left and Warum can basically shove him forward just enough where he can reach Marcia. Now there's like marshes and whatnot in between, like where we need to reach Marcia to like get her to the arrive point. And like units are slowed down by it. It's almost like sand in that regard as far as like movement penalties are concerned. Cavalry are heavily crippled by it, but Laguza not too much. Like here, once again, he's just like grinding it out, and he just one rounds this enemy with ease. And at this point, it's just like extra grinding for like the other units who are not like active in shoving or smiting. And for Jill, we do want her to promote for chapter 18, as her stats will be much needed there. And killing a Paladin will definitely help us out a lot with that in mind. And here, Warum has just enough move, or actually with some move to spare, to shove Mordecai. And here, again, Left also helps out here. And we want to make sure Mordecai has no trouble reaching Marcia. So that's why we needed the shove and the rescue drops. So, you know, Jill actually doing something useful for once in this run. Okay, joking, but anyway, so with that is an easy arrive, and that is 17-2 basically cleared in 2 turns as well. So these 2 parts are fairly short, but 17-3, that will certainly be a very long one, and it'll be a slog. Thankfully, we're not playing on Maniac, so, you know, we won't have to deal with sitting around for an hour. But I'll talk more about that when we get there. And with that all said, Marcia arrives, gets out here. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.